Aloha Manga Club, it's your boy Lohali signing in today with the one and only Geeky Dreams, aka Emma, aka Geeky_Dreams on Twitter because some bastard stole her handle. Emma, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Nervous, but I'm good.
You know what? I like the honesty. It's okay to be nervous on your very first Manga Club interview because I'm really a scary, mean person once you get down to it. Like, I'm the worst person that I've ever met, and I have to live with myself 24/7.
I don't think you're that scary. It's okay. I've seen scarier.
Not my. I see scarier in the mirror when I wake up in the morning. Like, I woke up this morning and I thought there was a homeless man breaking into the house. It was just not pleasant. It was, I had cats fighting underneath my bed. I had my dog barking twice. We looked at the mirror. It was just a very, very weird morning. I'm actually excited to have you on because we've had a few interactions before this on Instagram when you get to post your questions or when you post some stories and stuff. We've done a little bit of back and forth, but I'm genuinely excited to have you on because I know that you are super passionate about your creations. You have a YouTube channel. You have over 900 manga. I'm guessing that by this point in time, if I had to take a guess, you're almost closer to over 1,000, aren't you?
1,100 plus now.
Boom. Look at that. See, and I'm only going, that was a very loose guess because you did your 900 plus manga collection video 11 months ago. And most people may think that that's your very first video, but after doing a little bit of research and talking with you, apparently there were a few others. There were 3 from 6 years ago on there when I just first looked. So what kind of got you into making content for YouTube?
Like back in, I was it 6 years ago now. I used to watch other creators do like YouTube, and I was like, do you know what? I like manga. I liked it since I was like in my mid-teens, like 2019 was when 2009 was when I first sort of like got into the whole manga community or liking manga again. So I thought, why the hell not? Like, nobody else that I know actually really liked manga or anime. There was very select few people, and then I saw this whole community and I thought, well, why not try and see what happens? And then I made a few videos and then didn't do it for a long time. I actually don't really have any reason why other than the fact that I was worried that other people might find my channel and then think I'm a bit weird, quite to be honest. But now I'm kind of like, I don't care.
And that's,
I'm in my 20s, late 20s. I really don't give a crap. Like,
yeah, I've reached the point in my life where people can judge me all they want, but it's not going to matter. I'm still going to collect manga volumes after manga volumes. But what you really actually focus on instead of your YouTube channel, because you do videos about every 3 weeks, but you upload Instagram photos that look gorgeous almost daily. Like, they are genuinely good looking photos. Like, what made you go from, you know, you're like, okay, I'm not going to do YouTube quite as much, but what made you really focus on Instagram? Is it just the, you know, the ability to put out content a lot quicker, so you can communicate with people faster?
Yeah, 100%. Because actually, I don't. This sounds completely insane because we're like in 2020. I do not actually own a laptop or a computer, so I film everything off of my phone. I have my iPad, and there's a certain amount of storage that I can have on there. So I can only shoot like one video at a time. So once I've done that and edited it and uploaded, like I kind of, it's almost like it's not an effort, but it's like the struggle to then motivate myself to then do it all over again. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to actually get a laptop soon so I can bulk record, because once I'm in that frame of mind, I'm like, oh, I want to record so many things, and then there's no storage, and then it's just not a great time. But that's kind of why I moved from YouTube to Instagram. Plus I can interact with my community a lot quicker than I can do on YouTube, because there's a lot more of us on there, and you can do like polls and just interact more, and I prefer that. Like, I can get recommendations quicker on there, and I just enjoy the whole interaction with the community on Twitter on Instagram.
When do we get to Twitter? Oh god,
I don't know. I was looking at I just saw something blue and I was like, no.
You're like, Twitter, blue. Yep, that's what we're talking
Yeah.
about. It's okay. If you saw something technical, you would have thought of Instagram. I know how that goes.
Yeah.
So how long have you actually had the Instagram account then?
2019, sort of like the latter half, I think it was. Because I started posting with, I think it was Tokyo Ghoul that I put on there, because at that time it was the thing that got me back into collecting, because I had like a 3 or 4 year break where I just weren't interested in the hobby so much anymore. I kind of have one of those personalities that will go from one thing to another. So I'll enjoy one thing, do it for 6 months, then switch to something else. So that's kind of like my mentality. And it just so happens that now that sort of like hooked me back into it, and then my collection just exploded out of nowhere.
You want me to blow your mind? Do you want to know when you post that Tokyo Ghoul photo?
Oh god.
September 16th, 2018.
Oh my god, was it 18?
It was 2018.
Oh my god. I was adamant that it was 19. Maybe 19 was when I put my YouTube video up. Is it?
2019 is when you put your YouTube video
okay.
up. You got them mixed up.
Oh,
Now this is embarrassing. Oh no.
That is embarrassing.
But so Tokyo Ghoul brought you back. How did Tokyo Ghoul bring you back into collecting? Like, I've read it a little bit and it's never really pulled me in too much.
I really like darker, gruesome series. So Tokyo Ghoul, I watched the anime, the first season, and kind of enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. I liked the character design. I loved the soundtrack for it. Like, I love that sort of like fast-paced grittiness to the series. So it kind of grits me. And then I picked it up and I was just like, why the heck did I just not continue with this? And then I just bought everything that was out, and then that was like pulled me down this really deep dark rabbit hole that I just can't get myself out of. And
now you're 1,100 plus volumes deep. That is terrifying. That's an absolutely astounding amount of manga. Like, at my peak I've had 600, and I was like, damn, that's a lot of manga. How many shelves do you have, like, full, like bookshelves?
So I've got box sets that are like stacked up by the side of the bookshelves, but I've got 2 big bookcases and 1 half one, and I'm yet to double stack. So yeah,
plus all of the box sets.
Out of room though. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is insane. Like, what in the world? Like, when you bought Tokyo Ghoul, when you bought Tokyo Ghoul, how many volumes did you have?
When I had so when I had my first bookcase, I got to the point where it was an old Billy bookcase, mm-hmm. and I had double stacked it to the point where there was literally no room, and that was when I stopped collecting at that point, because I think I got to a point where there is literally no room, and I didn't have any money to buy a new bookcase. And then I got my first job, I brought a bookcase, and then I put the ones next to it and they looked really nice together, and then I was just like, oh crap, like, I've got no more room. So I then brought another one, and then it's just gone from bad to worse.
I think that's gone from bad to fun.
But not bad at the same time.
Do you enjoy the manga that you collect?
Most of them, yeah, and I have sold a fair few because I've fallen out of love with them, or they just weren't for me. But I would say 90% of the series that I currently own, I do like and do enjoy. But there are a few that they are quite a lot that I haven't actually read, but I have watched the anime too, so I will get around to it eventually. But there is sort of like one series that you're probably going to be like, what the frig? And that for me is Monster. I've tried numerous times to get into it. I've got the first 4 volumes of it. I've read the first omnibus like twice and tried to get into it a third time, and I just can't. I don't know if I'm not in the right frame of mind, or my brain just doesn't really comprehend the medical terms in it. I'm not entirely sure. It's probably more likely the case. but I just can't feel myself enjoying it. I want to because I know that there's a lot of like hype around it, but I don't want to enjoy it just because of the hype.
Nope.
I want to enjoy something because I genuinely have fallen in love with the series. So it's a bit like that with me for Dr. Stone. So I genuinely do really enjoy the series because it's like a slow paced shonen. It's totally like, I don't know, there's something about it being set in prehistoric, but like in the future, if that makes sense. So it just totally agrees with me because I love that sort of setting.
I just want to point out, you called Dr. Stone slow pace. They made a steam powered car in one chapter. They invented a steam powered car in one chapter. I'm not sure if we can legally call it slow pace at that point.
I think, well, yeah, that's true. I think slow pace, I mean, kind of like, it's not like shonen for me is like, your typical shonen is like constantly power ups. Like a good example of that is obviously like Dragon Ball Z. So it's like constantly powering up all the time, right? So, but with Dr. Stone, there's literally no power up. It's all about science. It's really nerdy. It's really interesting because you can learn so many different things, like how to make Coke. Like, would you find that in like Naruto? I don't think we might be able to learn how to make a bowl of ramen, which is quite cool. But like, other than that, like you wouldn't find that. And for me, that's like so interesting. I love like all sort of science stuff, so it totally interests me from the get-go, and I just fangirled for like 5 minutes.
That's perfectly okay. And honestly, speaking back to Monster, as a huge fan of Naoki Urasawa, like I love basically everything that he's done. Monster and 20th Century Boys are very hard to get into because they're not a traditional linear storytelling. So if you don't understand if you don't know that going in and you start reading it, like I can admit very much so when I read the first few chapters of Monster for the first time, I was like, oh man, this is I dropped it and I came back and I read it again and then I understood what was going on. It was really, really good. If you have not gotten the chance to read Pluto, another series by Urasawa, taking place in the world of Astro Boy, actually. It's like a darker version of Astro Boy. It is a really good kind of like mystery, whodunit, like who's doing it situation. And it's a much better intro to Urasawa if you've never actually gotten to read any of his other stuff. And it's only 9 volumes compared, like 9 regular Takubans compared to 9
the giant ones.
The giant 20 plus volumes that's Monster and 20th Century Boys.
I have to say that 20th Century Boys kind of has me intrigued. Just that I don't want to be somebody that kind of just buys it for cover, because I know that I kind of regret doing that sometimes when I've done it previously, but the covers of the new ones are stunning, so I'm kind of tempted by it, but I'm like, if I didn't enjoy Monster, am I gonna likely enjoy 20th Century? But I've heard so many people say they prefer 20th Century over Monster, so
Monster
I could be one of those people.
Is Urasawa's magnum opus. It's like there's so much intrigue, everything's interweaving, like there's so many things going on that you need to pay attention to. 20th Century Boys is just so fun. It's just so enjoyable. But you love yourself fast-paced battle shonen, even though you said in your most recent video you started to read more shoujo than shonen recently.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that in a few seconds, but what are your kind of like favorite 3 shonen at the moment? Like the 3 that you want to go back to and just flip through. Obviously, Dr. Stone is apparently your number one geek out, but what are the other 2?
Honestly, now I'm a massive sucker for One Piece. I watched the anime so many times. Boa Hancock is like my favorite character, female character. She is hilariously funny,
and she's complex. Oda actually does a very good job, and I'm not gonna say his designs of women are not great. Speaking objectively, there's 2 Oda designs, either super ugly or they have no waist and they're all just gigantic boobs.
That's the whole like 8, isn't it? His whole design is like
it's
8.
An X or X with 2 circles, like X here, circle here, so I'm like, Oda, calm down. But he writes the women in like, honestly, for a male author, I think he does a good job of bringing complexity, he doesn't make them, females first, characters next. He makes some characters first, and then he doesn't even really focus on gender in One Piece, I think. You could genuinely swap around, except for Toshigi to be a very prominent example of, you know, Zoro's. She feels like Zoro's treating her differently because of her sex, and he focuses a little bit on that. But it feels like you could swap the gender of the One Piece characters around, and it wouldn't make as big of a difference in who they are. And I think that's actually a really cool thing coming from a male author compared to, you know.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like people like Death Note writers who only exclusively write terrible women. Like that's it. All they do is write terrible women.
I haven't actually read it. I've watched it, but I haven't read it. But yeah, I really like a badass female character. I've said it in a couple of my videos. So I do not like weak female characters. Some instances it's fine. So like, there's nothing wrong with a soppy romance with somebody that's quite insecure, and and the female character learns to grow and build on her insecurities and stuff. I totally really enjoy that sort of story as well. But in shonen, I kind of want the female to be able to like pull her own like weight along with the other male leads, because otherwise it's a bit like, oh no, the female character's weak, let's rescue her, big old macho man, let's do it, of thing.
Like Sakura from Naruto. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'm currently rewatching that and reliving it.
Just
she's
so
annoying.
much. She's the worst.
Yeah.
Like, is a much better character, like has much better character growth and progression than Sakura. But
even Hinata, from she was so weak to start off with, but through the tuning exam she like kicked ass. Like even though she didn't win, like she still like
was willing. She was willing to die to beat Neji. I was like, okay, that's awesome. Like you start off, you're like, oh, she's kind of a pansy, you know. I don't know if I like her.
I'm like, she's got that inner like conscience that's like, yeah, and I'm like, well, why don't bring that out then, rather than it being inside.
And then she did. She brought it out, and I was like, awesome, this is great. But then Boa Hancock is one of your favorites, and honestly, like I said, she's such a complex character because the emotions that she feels because of what's happened to her in the past, which they don't specify. They just say, oh, some things have happened to her in the past. She was, a slave to the Tenryubito, the celestial dragons, and they don't. Oda never specifically says what they did, but he lets you kind of believe that, and it really tells her character as to why she's so adamant about looking down on people, because that's how she was treated as a child. That's why she doesn't. She wants to be powerful. She wants to be strong because she felt so weak. Like to me, Boa is such a complex, like interesting character. Same with Robin, same with Nami. They've all been through traumatic experiences and helped govern it in their own way and dealt with it in very unique and different ways. One became.
I loved Robin as well. Robin was she is still. She's a great character. I liked when they were Eni's lobby and she tried to take on the whole burden of everything that was going on for herself and try to be really strong, but then seeing all of her friends like line up and everything, and that was the moment that was
chills, literal chills going on, because I just remember that moment where she's standing there on the bridge. Luffy points at Sogeking and just says, "Do it,
shoot that flag,"
and he does, and everyone's standing like. Everyone in the world government is just blown away. All the Straw Hats are standing there like, nah, this is it. And Robin sees that they genuinely care about her, and she's wanting to be, and this is just from kind of like my perspective, she's wanting to be selfish for the first time in her life. She says she doesn't want to think that they would betray her, because she's had so many people betray her in the past that seeing them betray her would break her. And so she's trying to push them away and save them so she can feel like she's won and has true friends. And she was able to cling on to that. Okay, they might betray me, so I can feel good about doing this. I can sacrifice myself for them. But when she saw them do that, that's when she broke. That's when she said, "I want to live." That's when she literally bit onto stone so they wouldn't drag her. That is some powerful biting muscles right there.
I think it was definitely a huge growth for her, because it was like she's found a place where she can finally be her and not lie to herself about who she is. She can be that archaeologist and find out like the origins of the poneglyphs and everything else. Like it's just, she could finally be her. And it was such an amazing, for me, it's like such a like amazing part of the series that even now for everything else, it was like, that was her moment. And it was like, one of the best moments.
It was so good. Have you gotten to read any of the new chapters lately, or just reading the Takubans?
I have.
So then, okay, without spoilers, I'm not gonna lie. The progeny of Kaido is amazing. I'm in love with Kaido's son. With Kaido's son.
Yeah.
Which was
he's definitely amazing.
He's definitely. I'm hoping that Kaido's son becomes a member of the Straw Hats.
Oh yeah, that would be pretty sick.
Like between
that would be pretty sick.
My only concern is
Kara, what about
Kara doesn't feel like a member of the Straw Hats.
No,
she doesn't really have a dream.
Yeah.
Every other one of the Straw Hats has a dream. Genuinely has a massive dream. Kara's like, I just want to adventure. What? That's not a dream. Like, the only one who genuinely doesn't really have a dream is Jinbei. And that's only because he's lived out his dream. His dream has been completed, and so he's helping carry on others.
Yeah, I actually want to know what went on with him and Big Mum. Like, how did he get away scot-free? That's not normal. Like, something must have happened.
He's one of the most powerful 7 warlords. Like, he should be able to fight against a Yonko level commander, and he should be able to put a dent into Big Mom. I think he tried to fight Big Mom. I don't know if he won, but I think he tried to. Or actually, no. The last scene with him and Big Mom is he was ready to accept his punishment, so he could go to Luffy with a clear conscience.
But wasn't her? If I remember correctly, her power is if they fear her, they take certain parts of the soul. If he has no fear,
she can't do anything.
Then she can't take anything.
You either have to willingly give it, or you have to fear her. And Jinbei wouldn't willingly give it because he's just not that kind of guy. And he has no fear because he's like, I've seen enough in my life that I'm ready to accept my death if that's what it means to protect my captain. He wants
to ride with the future king of the pirates, so he wouldn't have any fear.
So here's my one complaint about One Piece. And this isn't a massive complaint, but I think they did my boy Arlong dirty. How did Luffy?
I think he could have had he could have had a little bit of a redemption. I think he could have done.
He could have, because unlike Horty Jones, who was hatred for hatred's sake.
Oh yeah.
Arlong
he was one of the worst villains.
He was, but he was a villain that was. He wasn't a villain in the fact that he was written to be a character. He was created to be an idea within the real world, which I think is actually really interesting. He was built on the idea of institutionalized racism and hatred towards a specific group of people due to mistreatment. And it's not hatred because of what they've done to you, it's hatred because you've been told to hate. And that's what Horty exemplified. Whereas Jinbei and Arlong, they both had this hatred because they'd been physically abused. They'd seen their friends and family die around them because of pirates, because of humans. And that's, to me, Horty is an acceptable character because he is a symbol instead of a character. And that's how I look at him. It makes him a little bit more redeemable in my eyes because it's hard to, and then some of this I'm making up as I go along, talking to you right now, rationalizing with myself because I've never gotten this deep into it before. But to me, the reason why Horty kept coming back is because, like an idea, and this is obviously us assigning our own headcanon to the story that Oda's telling, and it could be wrong, it could be right, I don't know. But it's so hard to kill an idea, a feeling, that it takes multiple times of absolute force or absolute change, like Zoro and Luffy, to bring it down. And it keeps strengthening itself every single time until you finally defeat it at its peak, which was when he had literally shoved the entire box of the energy pills into his body, and he was supposed to be at a higher level. And Luffy just still destroyed him underwater. So I think Horty I'm okay with as a villain if I take him as an idea. If I take him as a character, I don't like him. He's very shallow, very one-dimensional compared to literally everyone else. Even Caesar Clown. Caesar Clown has more dimension than Horty Jones.
He's a freaky-looking guy.
He is a freaky-looking guy.
He reminds me of the kick-catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Have you ever seen? Oh my
god, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was my childhood. It is the nose. Just walking around with a lollipop. No, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. No, Peril Sparrow looks like the guy from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
I'm trying to think, who's that?
Charlotte's first son.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that until just now. He has that same really long nose, really creepy demeanor. Like Peril Sparrow, feels to me like the creepy kid catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
But then Caesar gives those sweets to the kids, so
Yeah, no, he's just creepy. Let's just be real here. He's just evil. He's closer to a Nazi scientist trying to rationalize what he's doing.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But
I mean, who experiments on kids?
evil people. Evil people.
Yeah,
but
it's not great.
Getting back to my Arlong argument, the weakest point in One Piece to me is Arlong, because how did a pre-time skip Luffy beat Arlong, who was the number 3 strongest on the Fishman Pirates, who was one of the strongest pirate crews on the seas? How?
And they hadn't even reached the Grand Line yet.
No.
So it makes no sense. It really doesn't.
And somebody was like, "Well, Arlong didn't train." I was like, "It shouldn't matter. Arlong was one of the best fighters on the Fishman Pirates.
He was a fishman."
I think Oda didn't have the plan for the Fishman Pirates until that point. He didn't know how strong the world was genuinely going to get. So I wish that Arlong had a redemption arc with Jinbei. Like that.
But is he actually dead though? Because you know what Oda's
captured.
like.
He's captured in, because Luffy never kills his opponents.
No.
So he's captured in Impel Down.
Yeah.
He's in Impel Down somewhere, but we didn't see him during that whole traverse.
No, we didn't.
Which makes no sense.
True.
How are they keeping him hidden like that?
This is true.
How cool would that be if, like, in the final 2 to 3? Because I think there's, to me,
they bring him back.
They bring him back,
cool.
And Jinbei just like, he's actually like he trained again. He pulled a prison Iroh, like got jacked again, and like he comes up to fight. Like he's pissed at Jinbei for siding with humans. He's not pissed at Luffy because Luffy beat him. No. He sees that the ideals are wrong. Like he doesn't necessarily see that the ideals are wrong, but he's trying to. To me, I think it could be a really interesting character arc for Arlong if they treat it like an old like somebody who's older that's racist. Like they know what they're doing is wrong, but they still can't fight their prejudice. They're trying to get a little bit better, but they still default back to that hatred that's just, in them, that they, became a part of who they are. I'd love to see that kind of struggle with Arlong. It would be so cool.
It would be really interesting to see how him and Nami would interact as well, because obviously that squid guy, I can never remember his name.
Hachi.
He went from that's it. So he went from being like an enemy to a friend. So it'd be interesting to see if that could be the same. But obviously he killed Bellamere, so maybe not.
Maybe not. And with that, Hachi genuinely apologized for what he did. He's like, "I'm so sorry for what we did." And then Nami got more of a background as to why they did what they did with the archipelago. When she saw how the humans were treating the fishmen, she kind of started to understand in her head they were doing it because they were treated poorly by humans. And I think she was able to rationalize like why it happened. You don't have to forget the evil that somebody's done for you. And you don't have to choose to forgive, but she's chosen to forgive Hachi for what he did, but she hasn't forgotten what he did.
She can just, I suppose it's kind of like in the real world, you can forgive or you can sort of like learn from what's happened to make sure it doesn't happen again. So
and I think she's
imagine that's what, I
think she's helped pass it on. So what is your number 3? We know Dr. Stone. We know that we apparently we both stan One Piece. I'm a full One Piece stan. Like it is it's my bread and butter. Like I can talk about it for hours. Good. What is your number 3 shonen?
I honestly don't think I could do a top 3 because I just enjoy so many different ones. But the one that I've read most recently and caught up to date is Blue Exorcist. That and D. Grey Man as well. Those two are ones that
I saw that on your shelf. I saw that on your shelf. I really love D. Grey Man, but it got super crazy towards like the back half, and I was like, what is going on right now?
I think I'm as far as volume 14, I think, and then I haven't continued yet.
After volume 14, it goes off the rails. It is insane. I sat down in a it's a national chain of used booksellers called Half Price Books. I used to sit in the aisles and just read the entirety of like different series while I was there, and that was one of them.
The grittiness of it and like the dark, like I love a darker series, so it's just I like the Akuma, they're just weird and it's fantastic.
It's super enjoyable, and the artwork is so it feels
It's
different.
so nice.
Yeah.
And it's done by a female author as well, I believe,
I
which is
believe you're right.
because I believe she stopped for a while because she wasn't well, and that's why it moved to from Shonen Jump Weekly to monthly. I think it moved.
Yes. It's
Can't
currently
remember.
in Jump SQ Rise. 'Cause it was originally in Weekly Shonen Jump for 5 years. And
Mm.
then it went from Jump, then it went to S Jump Square, and then Rise. But there's only like a few series in there.
It's not
Four.
that many at all.
Four
Mm.
series in SQ Crown, Rise, like that whole thing. And yes, uh, yeah, Katsura Hoshino is a female mangaka. I did not know
It's
that.
nice to see some females doing sort of like shonen because I love to see it from different perspective, like different genders, like what their take is on an action, and I'd love to see a or read a romance done by a male mangaka. That would be awesome. I don't think I have read one yet, or maybe I have. Is Blue Flag one? I think so.
It might be.
I don't
So,
know.
did you know that some of the most prominent manga, shonen manga of all time, are by women, are by female authors? You know that, right? Inuyasha, obviously.
Rumiko Takashi
Mm-hmm. Full
is
Metal
one of my
Alchemist, Hiromu Arakawa. She also did Hero's Tale and
she's doing
Arslan.
the art. Yeah, that's a good one as well. That's another good
Like
one.
those are two of the most popular, um, like two of the most popular shonen of all time. And then Blue Exorcist, Kazue Kato, another female author.
I didn't know that. Is actually written by a female artist?
I'm
That's
Googling it
awesome.
right now. I Googled this so I could pretend that I had a lot of knowledge. This is how it works. I swear. In Magi, the Labyrinth of Magic is also written by a female author.
I like that. I didn't like the ending.
The
I wasn't a fan of the ending.
I didn't bother reading the ending. I loved the series. I loved the artwork. It was so fun. But I'm guessing if I had to take a guess, and I genuinely don't know the ending here, did they
Okay.
completely do a time skip, reset the world, and Aladdin is like some super like suave badass?
I'm kind of thinking because it's been a while since I've read it. But I know they had not necessarily a time skip, but they did have a visit to the past at the end, which was quite interesting. But yeah, it one of my favorite characters at the beginning didn't turn out how I expected them to turn out.
Is it
So
was it Sinbad?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Sinbad was not a like I was
he's a
hoping that he'd have
jerk.
more depth. Turns out he was
Oh,
just douchey.
towards the end, you kind of see more about him, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen
He
it.
seemed
So it's just really awkward.
okay. Here, I'm gonna put my hands up like this next to my face until the spoilers are done. So, spoilers. What does he do? You can.
Okay, he is actually the bad guy. So he causes the whole problem towards the end, and yeah, it wasn't right. It just was not right.
It goes from him being helpful and a nice guy to him being.
Yeah, so
But
you can see from the beginning, like he's like a really great guy, right? And then you see him start to turn sort of like more towards his ideals. You see, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but he just turned out to be a complete dick, and I did not like him.
that's. Yeah, like they
So,
ruined that. Did you know? Okay, and spoilers are done. Did you know
yeah,
that
there wasn't.
I think she's writing a new series?
Yeah, I'm. Is it
What's
the
it
Orient?
called?
I think it's Orient.
It is
Because
Orient.
I've pre-ordered that for next year. I've already got the pre-order.
I may or may not have read a few chapters of Orient. It is
Yeah.
interesting. It is very, very
the whole
interesting.
sort of like oldie worldy kind of settings are 100% my cup of tea. So
It goes absolutely crazy.
is there anything like Maggie? Because if it is, I'm kind of going to cancel my pre-order.
I would read the first volume and see how you feel about it. It's a true blue shonen. Like it's a shonen. Now, I'm actually going to be honest here. I'm such a shonen lover that currently I'm so in love with Black Clover compared to My Hero Academia.
Oh, so I've actually got My Hero Academia in my collection, but Clover is yet to make an appearance. But I'm kind of getting fed up with My Hero at the moment.
It's so. This is I
Just
always explain
from
it.
what I've read.
This is how I explain it. Black Clover knows that it is shonen trash, and it just accepts it. It doesn't even care. It's like it doesn't even try to hide what it is. It's like no. I get by on the power of friendship, overcoming the odds, and slicing people up. I'm like, dope. I can get behind that. Whereas My Hero Academia, I love them both. I really thoroughly do enjoy them both. But My Hero Academia at times feels a bit too pretentious, like it's trying too hard to be something better than just a regular shonen. I'm like, cool, try to... I appreciate that Horikoshi, I think, is the author.
Yeah.
Is trying... I appreciate what Horikoshi's trying to do, but they're also... It feels like he's trying to avoid the tropes so hard that he actually is hitting them like on the nose without doing them properly. I'm like, God damn. You do know what I'm talking about? Like that feeling of some of the story, you just sit there and you're like, I'm
almost feeling like it's kind of a bit repetitive. I mean, most shonen is repetitive in a sense,
but it's fun repetitive.
It's like in your face kind of repetitive.
Not like I'm trying to subvert the tropes, but I'm still a trope myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. For me personally, I absolutely love superheroes like Marvel Universe, MCU. I'm a huge nerd for it. So going from that to My Hero kind of meshed well together because it's got manga, which I obviously love, and MCU. So it kind of nestled really well for me. But I haven't bothered reading volume 24 yet because 23 just was boring for me.
What happened in volume 23?
I think they were... Oh my god, they were just about to start the villain arc, I believe, or introducing it, and just that whole volume just totally had me, like, put me off. So I think I'm gonna probably get a few more volumes before I sit down and read it. But I absolutely loved what I read on the Shonen Jump app of Black Clover. Magic, like medieval type setting with kings and like, yeah, and I'm down for that.
It doesn't even bother to try to hide it. It straight up says he's worthless except for he just tries really, really hard. They don't even bother setting it up in the very beginning. He tries really, really hard. He doesn't have any magic, but he's aiming to be the Magic King. You're like, okay, I know where this is going. Unlike, you're like pretty sure he's gonna be the Magic King, and the interactions between Yuno and Deku, I think, are some of the most pure, like, shonen protagonist rivals I've ever seen, because they're not actually like hating, like they don't hate each other like rivals do. They don't do the whole Naruto Sasuke. Slightly,
they kind of gave me a vibe of that though to start off with, because it was like, I want to be the Magic King, and then you've got Naruto that wants to be the Hokage, so it
definitely gives you that vibe. But then you look at it and you're like, instead of like Naruto and Sasuke who just like pretend to hate each other, like these two are actually just like, they just rib each other just for fun. Like Yuno just walks in, loser, how you doing? He's like, how's it go down there? I thought you were gonna aim to be Magic King. Kicked your ass. Yeah, and Ash is just like, oh no, you didn't. I just really like, it's so pure to me. That's so pure and so fun.
Their interactions are pretty special, to be fair.
And so I'm so much about that shonen trash life. The trashier for me, like, you've got to have the right amount of trash to make it a very fun series to read, because there's a really good shonen that, like, you have to sit. And I actually had this discussion last week on the video that came out this Monday, the Monday before we recorded this, with Evan. And, you know, to me, shonen trash, you just read. You can just flip through the pages. You don't have to sit there. You don't have to think. You just consume the entire thing and you understand the story. Whereas there are some shonen where you have to dive in very deep. You have to read. You have to understand. You have to comprehend the world to make it. And there's nothing wrong with liking either one of those. But for me, you know, I work in a very thought using, that sounds really douchey, job currently. And so coming home and trying to dive really deep into a complicated manga is just so exhausting. I want
Mm.
something where I can come in, just turn my brain off and just scroll through. Like right now, God of High School on Webtoons, awesome.
Really, I've heard great things.
It
Is
is
that worth checking out?
it goes, so if you're okay with insane power scaling, absolutely. It goes nuts. Like I messaged, so I'm talking to a guy, pretty nice guy that I met through Instagram, and he recommended that I read it after the anime came out. I kind of looked at the anime. I was like, oh, the anime's pretty cool. It was like the manga's 100 times better, and I went, what? So I started reading through the manhwa, and I went,
Mm.
oh my god, this is amazing. And it absolutely, like, I literally read through it so quickly because it was so much fun to read. And the other thing is, there's nothing too complicated about it. Like, I've
Mm.
literally sit there with my finger on the down arrow just scrolling through, like, because you don't have to read, you just follow how kinetic the fights are, and you can take everything in when
Mm.
you're reading it.
They're so. I think the manhwas are a totally different experience actually, and I think I love the fact that a lot of them are in color as well.
It
It's a shame that we don't have a lot more sort of like coming over to the West.
for me, I don't necessarily. So my big problem with American comics, or Western, let's call them Western comics because there are
Yeah.
like Hellboy. There's a few from overseas, obviously, but Western comics, I don't like to read them. I can't read them. There's just something about the artwork. There's something about all the colors and how small the words are that my brain just it tries to read it, and I'm like I just don't like it. That doesn't mean that they're bad stories. In fact, I think there are some absolutely amazing stories. Injustice, amazing story. I definitely watch Comics Explained, like telling the entire story about it because they're good stories, they're good characters, but the artwork isn't bad. But for some reason, manhwa like webtoons, they don't bother me when they're in color.
Mm.
Whereas if manga was in color, I don't know if I'd like it as much.
Mm. I think because we're so used to the medium being in black and white that I think that it would be really difficult for us to switch it to color, if that makes sense. Because
Makes perfect
for
sense.
me personally, it would be like I have an idea of what the character kind of looks like in my head as I'm reading it. For you to then like put what you think the character should look like, it feels strange to
It
me.
does. I'm actually very worried because I don't know what Kaido's son is going to look like color scale, like color wise.
I know.
And I'm
Oh
like,
no.
I know what I want Kaido's son to look like
Mm-hmm.
because that will look so cool. But I'm also worried that it's going to be wrong and it's not going to look right. Do you think Oda sits there and approves all the color choices? Do you think the mangaka get to sit there and approve color choices for the character designs, or do
I
they just
don't
kind of?
know. I don't know. I think I know with Oda. I don't know if I read it somewhere, but I know that he has a very different idea when it comes to an anime versus the manga. So I think it was something like he knows that they're totally different mediums, although they come from the same story. So he likes it to be very bright and colourful, I believe, or from what I can imagine. So it'd be interesting to see what he does with this new character or what is done with this new character because they are very bright colors normally, especially in Wano at the moment. Everything is stunning. So it'd be interesting to see how far they're willing to take it.
So I'm excited, but I think I would give God of High School a try if I were you. It's all just kinetic martial arts that you get to read, and it goes off the rails. Like I sat there and I messaged him, and I literally, so I messaged my buddy and went, when a thing happened, I was like, so and so. Before I even got to the reveal of it, I went, so and so's this person, aren't they? And he went, yes, they are. And I went, son of a gun. And I know, so, and now watching the anime and getting to the point where I did in the manhwa, it makes sense as to why they're doing what they're doing, and I know where they're gonna end. I have a pretty good idea of where they're gonna end the season. I'm not happy with how they're getting there, though. They've skipped so
Oh,
much
really?
character progression. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I just watched it. I was like, dang it.
Oh god, now I think I'm gonna check out the webtoon first then.
Yes,
I think
I absolutely would. The characters feel different. How some certain aspects of the story are introduced very different. Um, but the kinetic fights in the anime, so good. The fights in the anime are so good, though. I will give them.
is it sort of like has it got as amazing fights as like the Bucky anime, because that had some pretty amazing fights in it. Obviously not as brutal as the Bucky anime,
Not
but like
not quite as brutal, but there's some storytelling depth to the fights, which I enjoy.
okay,
Now,
that's good. Yeah.
then there's me, who I always get into arguments with Base Senpai about the best fighting anime of all time, and I think that Ippo probably has some of the best sound design that makes every single hit feel so much more powerful than it should, and I love Ippo so much. If you haven't ever watched Ippo, you need to.
That's the boxing one, right? That's
Yes,
the
it
boxing
is.
one. Okay.
It is. It's been going on since 1989. It's one of the top 10 longest running manga of all time. With the most, it has 1,350 chapters almost. 1,306, yeah, something like that.
Oh my god, that's
Yeah.
like insane.
Yeah, it's God, what chapter are they on?
Have they got this on Crunchyroll by any chance?
Most of the anime I believe is coming back to Crunchyroll. Yes, they're at 1309 on the manga.
Oh my god, that's
And
insane.
I look through this every now and then just to see where it's at. So if you go strictly by chapters, there's only 1, 2, 3 manga that have more chapters. I guess there's a few exceptions, but there are very few manga that have more chapters than Ippo. There's one with 15 volumes, 13,352 chapters, but I think those are more single panels.
Oh, okay.
And then there's one with 6,477.
6,000 chapters.
Yep, and it's been going on since 1994. Again, I think that's more. Sorry. First chapter was in 1946, and it ended in 1974.
Oh my god, what is that?
That is Saze-san.
I've never heard of that before.
Saze-san is a Japanese Yonkoma manga series written and illustrated by Machiko Hasegawa. It was first published in Hasegawa's local paper, so I think it was more of like a 4-panel comic.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
6,000 chapters is insane.
But I think that would be more so like a regular comic. You're doing a chapter every single day, which would make sense for 30 years. That seems about right. 6,477 for over almost 30 years, less than 30 years. Cooking Papa has more chapters and volumes.
That sounds cute. I have no idea what that is, but that
Cooking
sounds cute.
Papa is a seinen manga. Written and illustrated. The series was serialized by Kodansha manga in the Kodansha manga anthology Weekly Morning since 1985. The story revolves around a salaryman named Kazumi Araiwa who can cook well but is unwilling to let it be known within his workplace. He lets everyone in the company believe that his wife, Nijiko I can't say the name, cooks his meals when in truth she could not prepare anything. And it's a seinen.
That sounds intriguing.
It seems like
it's
it'd
a
be
seinen.
Yeah.
That sounds intriguing.
Then you have Minami no Teo. Again, I've never heard of that one. Then you have Doraemon, which is again.
I feel like I recognize that name. Is that like that little blue cat?
Yes,
thing
it
with
is.
No ears?
Yes, it is. Super Radical Gag Family, and then finally Ippo is right there. But if you go by total number of volumes, Ippo is number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with 128 volumes.
Okay, so it's worth checking out if possible. Then
It is. If you like shonen, there are a few things that it's very popular. But I would watch the anime because you can't, unless you read Japanese, you won't be able to read it legally.
Okay, if it's on Crunchyroll, I will give it a go because I'm game for a sports anime. I'm always game for something sports.
The sound design behind it, the punches are actually like, they use jet engines for some of the punches.
What the hell?
Like they use that sound effect, like when a super powerful punch is supposed to be coming in, you'll hear a jet engine behind it just like roaring to life as it hits. It's so good. I think I definitely am not pulling up Crunchyroll in my hands right now because that would be stupid. I want to make sure that it is in fact on there. Uh,
In
yep.
fact, they might not have it because if it's in the UK, they might not have the license for it. Thinking about that,
It
actually.
is on Crunchyroll. There's only one series, and it's the Ippo the Fighting. It's Hajime no Ippo the
Okay.
Fighting series, The Rising, and it kind of picks you up in the middle of the series, but if you watch it, it's just boxing, and
Okay.
it
So
looks
you can't
beautiful.
go wrong.
You can't go wrong if you love to watch a good like genuine boxing match. And this is based in the 90s. So this is back when boxing was like rough and tumble, like punch you in the face. Unlike outboxing
Yeah.
now, like this is more in the transition period from when boxing went from getting each other's face, like try to rip each other's heads off, to using techniques and tactics more along the way through. And you're following a character who's more traditional in the boxing sense, but it's so fun. It's so good.
I'm
But
definitely gonna have to look into that now.
George does not know how to write romance. I will say that is his downfall. George Morikawa cannot write romance. So why are you?
So I'm not in it for the shoujo game.
You're
then.
You're not in it for the shoujo game. And guess what? This is a brilliant transition. So why are you reading more shoujo right now?
Honestly, I don't know. I have no idea as to why. I've been watching a lot of was watching a lot of Shay videos recently, some of her older ones where she was reading a lot of different shoujo, and there was a couple of ones that she recommended. Actually, this one was a josei, and that was Sweat and Soap, and I literally fell in love with the weirdness of a guy being attracted to the way the girl smells. And it kind of, yeah, it's weird.
Change your soap. I'm
None
out of
of
love
it-
with her.
Yeah. And like it kind of like got me into reading the romance stuff again, and then yeah, I've kind of just gone full blown into. I'm currently reading Kimi to Doke, loving that. Another one that I've recently picked up is Not Your Idol, and that kind of centers around the J-pop idol industry and the more darker side. I haven't read Volume 1, but from what I've heard, that there's an assault that happens with the main girl, and she leaves the industry and like cuts all her hair off, becomes like very guy-like, and just kind of goes along with her story from there. So I'm very intrigued by that one. But yeah, I love sort of like a romance stuff. I don't know, maybe because the state of the situation in the world at the moment, I think a little bit of love is what I've been craving to read. Which is probably the case.
I can understand that. I'm very much like when it comes to movies, I love rom-coms. Hands down. Like the stupider the rom-com, the better. Like 50 First Dates, awesome. Honestly, Dane Cook's rom-coms, not half bad. Employee of the Month, really enjoy it because it shows character progression. It's adorable. And then his other one that he did with Jessica Biel. It was Dane Cook and Jessica Biel. Oh, good God. Good Luck Chuck. Absolutely terrible movie, but I love it. I love it. Just
good soppy romance.
It's not even like super soppy romance. It's just there's some action, there's some comedy. There's a guy learning a life lesson about what it actually means to be, open with people, and I think that's a very important conversation that guys need to be able to have, is being emotionally open and honest with the people around them. I think that's a lot of what happens with toxic quote unquote masculinity is our whole lives, and it doesn't just stem from your elders showing you, it's your peers, it's women. Why is Will Smith crying about his wife getting in entanglement, something that's really funny, when in fact he's upset about it? Why aren't we trying to reach out and say, Will Smith is, it's okay for him to be hurt by this, instead of making jokes saying, what a pansy? Like, and I think that combating that is something that is very important in society. Masculinity isn't hiding who you truly are. It's accepting who you are and being the best version of yourself to me is the true definition of masculinity, because everyone sees being a man as being something different. Some people see it as swinging an axe and felling a tree. Some of it see being a compassionate person. Some of it, hunting. Some of it's knitting. It's a definition that is ever changing and dependent on person to person. And I think it's something that, as creators, we can help change too. I'm doing my best to read more, shoujo. I'm still not great at it. I'm still like one every other month, but I'm trying to read more to understand.
What are you currently reading, or what have you read so far?
So some of these don't count because they're actually shonen.
Okay.
So like to me, Ranma 1/2. Again, I know it is a shonen. Don't yell at me. But it's also a different feeling shonen because it feels like a little bit more of that romance. But then you have
you see more of a Akane, I think. So yeah.
Yeah. And so it has a little bit of a different feel, just like Inuyasha has a little bit of a different feel than the shonen. It focuses again more on the emotions. And to me, again, I've had this discussion a few times with Simply G. And I actually fully agree. Sometimes I do rib people a little bit just to have a little bit of fun. I think that we're doing ourselves a disservice by saying something's a shonen, something's a josei, something's a shoujo, instead of saying, oh, it's a rom-com, or oh, it's an action. Why are we defining it by it's aimed at a male or female audience when it should be, oh, it's this genre instead of this gender, this age group?
I 100% agree. 100% agree. Because there's so many different series that a lot of people are missing out on just because they refuse to read it, just because of what the series is aimed at or who they're aimed towards. And it's doing the author kind of like almost a misjust or an injustice, because there's such great series out there that just deserve so much love that they unfortunately aren't getting. So
absolutely. And let's take a look at something like The Promised Neverland, right? And this is going to sound like this sounds like we're about to go down a very weird road, but stick with me here. How is it that The Promised Neverland is still a shonen, even though it's a completely different story from something like Dragon Ball? Both of them are shonen, but they are both very much aimed at different audiences, even though the audience is both male and teenager. I can be 100% honest here. That seems very, very weird to me that we're defining it like that instead of saying one's more of an action mystery series in The Promised Neverland, where one's more just an action series, and Dragon Ball Z, a fighting series. An adventure. Dragon Ball was an adventure, then Dragon Ball Z became, and actually that might be an even better example. Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z, they're both part of the same series. Over in Japan, they're both Dragon Ball, but there's a definite genre shift once you go from the post Budokai Tenkaichi. I always get the names of the tournament and the video games mixed up. But there's a tonal shift between that last one with Piccolo and the introduction of Raditz. There is a definite tonal shift. How is that they're both in shonen when they both tell completely different stories? They're aimed at different audiences. I know people who love Dragon Ball who didn't enjoy Dragon Ball Z, and vice versa. Somebody who's read Dragon Ball Z, they're like, I don't really like Dragon Ball, even though Dragon Ball's superior.
Dragon Ball's cute. I love the first part.
It's adorable.
Bulma is like the adorable, most cutest little girl ever.
It is. It's so cute. There are a few things that I can see, like looking back now as a fully grown adult, there are some definite problems there, like Master Roshi wanting to see a 14-year-old girl's.
Yeah.
That's weird. Creepy. Again, if you take it with a sign, like, you also have to take it contextually speaking of, it was written in 1984, 85. While it's still not okay, culturally speaking for them, it was more okay. We still don't have to think that it's right. We just have to have that. We have to have that cultural or historical context as to why something is the way that it was, why it was acceptable. And I'm not, like, again, not saying that it's good. I understand why it happened. I still love the story, and I'm not going to ding it because of that. And I think that's how we need to consume media, is we have to take a look at a historical and a cultural context to it, along with, putting our morals in the same place, saying, okay, I understand why this is, but I can also personally choose whether or not I like the story or not. Like, for me, I wanted to make a video about, and now this is my first time saying this in public, I wanted to make a video about harem manga. I find harem manga to be very creepy, to be very weird, and to be very wrong. It's a 20-plus-year-old male usually writing a fulfillment fantasy about a 12 to 13-year-old boy having a group of 12 to 13-year-old girls trying to have sex with him. To me, that's very weird. That's very wrong. It's very creepy. I don't enjoy those stories, and I really didn't enjoy them when I was younger either. But looking at it culturally, is that an acceptable thing? Is that okay? And like I said, I go down some very weird tangents. I like how we went from shonen josei being not right to harem mangas being creepy as hell. I apologize.
To be fair, I haven't actually read any harem mangas at all. I've heard about the likes of like Love Hina and that, but personally, I haven't read any. It's same sort of like with like ecchi kind of series. I'm not 100% on that sort of like content, but then there are some series that I love. So like Soul Eater was a great shonen, but it had unnecessary like boob shots, and with the Cat Witch, it kind of wasn't necessary. And then the same with Fire Force, another one of his series. I haven't actually seen the entirety, but I know there's a character in there again with kind of like cat-like powers that ends up like almost naked in most of the scenes that she's in. So yeah, it's a bit strange. It
is, and like I said, there's some points where that's just more of a personal thought. Like, okay, I'm not okay with it from a personal standpoint, but I'm also started to like people who think like adults who like, oh, Nejima is an amazing harem manga. I'm like, that's about a dude. He's 10, trying to get with like 14-year-old girls,
so
and that's
strange.
Great. Again, I might be pushing people kind of away on that one, but it's kind of who I am. I just don't like that kind of stuff.
No, I have to agree with you. It's just strange to think that why would a child of that age be thinking about that anyway? So to write it into a story, it's kind of weird.
It feels like it's a wish fulfillment on the author's part, trying to insert themselves into that character so they can live that life. Yeah, and that's strange things, like, and that's just how manga is. There's some very strange things, and oh man, what series on your shelf is your least favorite right now?
My least favorite right now? That's a hard one. This should be easy. Probably Demon Diary. That's a manhwa. I haven't read it for a long time, but it's been sitting on my shelves for the longest time, and I'm umming and ahhing still whether or not to get rid of it. I just don't remember enjoying it. The characters were pretty. I mean, it was manhwa, so it has a different stylistic design to manga characters, but the story just wasn't that great. So probably Demon Diary, which is probably a strange one because not many people probably know about that one.
I do not know about that one.
But to be fair, I don't remember the story entirely. That's probably why it's one that sticks in my mind, because it's one that I just don't remember. So that's probably my least favorite. I can't think of any others actually at the moment that is coming to the top of my mind. But Demon Diary probably number one. I've
made a few mistakes with my manga collection before. Some of them are slightly embarrassing. I bought Rurouni Kenshin twice, and I sold it both times because I did not like Volume 1. I bought the entire series twice. You know how sad that is?
Did you forget that you bought it the first time?
I bought like the first quarter of the series the first time. I was like, God, no, sold it. And then the entire series was on sale for like $25. So basically, it was basically like $1 or $1.25 a volume. And I was like, I'll try it again. Yeah. I was like, well, I might as well try it again. Read the first volume and I went, shit. Damn it! I shouldn't have wasted my money. But then I ended up selling it and making a profit. So
okay, so silver lining.
Silver lining. My wife got very mad at me for buying it a second time, but I made money.
That's okay then. As long as you made a profit back.
As long as I made a profit back.
We'll sweep
yes.
that one under the rug.
Exactly. So we are actually getting near the end of our hour, which is exceedingly frustrating because I am loving this conversation. I'm loving to get to know you so much better, Emma. But there is a tradition at the end of the Manga Club.
Okay.
It is something that is a personal favorite of mine. It is called the random question of the day. It's where I think of a question. I do not pre-plan any of this. I just ask the questions and go. The most favorite one that I've done recently is, what is your spirit pants? Yes, that is right. What kind of pants are you in spirit? I've done this is how interesting the questions get. There was another one. What flavor of gum are you? Yes. I look at my desk and I find what I find. But today I think it's only fitting that I ask this because I am very much a fan of this. What kind of tea do you like to drink? For those of you thinking I'm lying, a bottle of tea.
You've got to. Okay. Because I'm British, this should be an interesting one, right?
This is exactly. I was like, I look at that tea bottle, I was like, this is the chance. This is your chance.
So I would probably say, oh my gosh, maybe iced peach tea.
Iced peach tea. Interesting. Like any specific brand of iced peach tea or just all iced peach tea?
Probably, I can't think of the brand that I like, but I do like iced peach tea.
And for
either that or Earl Grey. One or the two.
See, so this is my thing. This is me. So during the summer when it's warm, I go for all unsweetened iced tea. I don't do that sweetened stuff. It's too cloyingly sweet. There's no sugar added to my tea. I don't do any flavored teas. I do love me some pumpkin spice tea. But during the winter, I now have 3 go-to teas by Bigelow. One is the Constant Comment tea.
Okay.
Very delicious, very rich. I do like myself the English breakfast tea. I make that before, when I'm at work and I want a nice quick cup of coffee. I get their mix pack and I'll do the English cup. But Earl Grey just holds a very special place in my heart somewhere too. There's just that interesting back taste to it that really cleanses the palate. It goes really good with breakfast.
It goes good with everything.
It does.
It's the every day, every hour of the day too.
Right, you can drink it and you don't get sick of it. It's not too bitter usually, but it can it wipes your for me, iced tea goes good with almost any meal that I'm having because it cleanses your palate before you take another bite, so you get to taste it fresh, and tea just tastes delicious.
Now, my question for you is: do you have it with milk or without milk?
I do without milk.
And do you have it with sugar?
Nope.
You do it without milk.
I do it.
No sugar.
I do it 100%. Brewed with hot water in my cup. I have a to-go cup so it doesn't break at work because all of our stuff has to have lids on it. So I have my nice metal to-go cup. I put my tea bag in there and I let it soak. I do make a taboo. I don't set a timer and I don't take the tea bag out. I know that's technically wrong.
I don't know any British people that do that, to be fair. We normally just dunk the tea bag in, wait until we've got a reasonably dark colour. Now, there is a myth, though, that they said that women can't make either tea or coffee right, because it's normally really, really pale white. So for someone it's like a builder's thing. My brother's a plumber, and he has this thing that they always say that they can't make it properly because the colour of it is literally anemic. But we don't have any timers. We just dunk the tea bag in and wait until it's a nice browny colour, and then it's perfect.
This is where it gets even worse for me. Since it has a lid and I can't see anything going in there.
You just leave it in there?
I just leave it in there until I'm I leave it in there until I can actually drink it without burning my tongue.
Oh no, that's too much tea. Must be some strong ass tea.
I drink, when people are oh, you like tea? I'm listen. I drink tea. One time, so I used to go to a bar, a pub for all of you overseas listening. I know that's super sarcastic. I know you know it's a bar. I just got to be sarcastic. And I'd go and get
it depends on what building it's in. If it's in something that looks like a house, it's a pub.
That makes no sense. What? Okay, see, now I'm learning more about British. I always thought all bars over there were pubs, but it has to look like a house to be a pub. You're getting some crazy, like, I'm not liking this. I'm not liking the knowledge that I'm gaining right now. This is very unenjoyable for me. Okay, my mind is blown. I'm a little upset, a little confused, a little sad. My whole life has been ruined. I always thought a pub was just a bar.
Oh, it depends. No, a pub is definitely like, for me, if it doesn't look like a cute little cottage, sort of like house looking thing, and it doesn't have a beer garden, it is not a pub, in my opinion. It's not a pub.
So a bar in a strip mall, but that has an outside patio that you can drink on, is just a bar. Okay, so I lied. I would go to a bar frequently, not to drink alcohol. I just go there every Sunday night, back when I was single. Just go there every single Sunday night, and I'd have myself chips, and by chips I mean crisps, and by crisps I mean like tortilla chips, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I have to specify even more, because crisps are technically potatoes.
I was really thinking that, and I was just like, is it chips as in French fries, or is it chicken?
That's exactly. See, I have to do translation here. I have to do translation on this one. Tortilla chips. So you cut the tortillas into strips, fry them, you get tortilla chips with salsa, right? Is that a thing over there? Do you guys have those? They're like corn, they'd be corn crisps almost instead of potato crisps.
I don't think so, unless they're like Doritos. Is it something like that?
It's like a Dorito, only it doesn't have the Dorito cheese on top.
Okay, maybe.
Interesting.
Maybe.
Now I have a question that I have to ask Twitter.
Yeah.
Huh. All right.
Well, is a pub if it doesn't look like a house? That is the poll of the day.
Actually, that's the poll of the day. We'll do the chips ones tomorrow. You know what? I'll just ask Mark once we get off of this call, since he's also apparently from the UK as well.
I'm gonna feel real bad if he goes, "No, it's just a pub."
It's just a pub. I hope I remember to ask him this.
Yeah.
If not, you're gonna comment on the video just in the future. So anyway, back to the tea story. It would get to the point where I'd get myself tortilla chips, salsa, and an iced tea, and just watch sports. I don't like watching sports, but I'd sit there and just watch sports because I just wanted to get out of the house. And it got to the point where they would actually just kind of set the jug of tea that they would fresh brew every single day next to me, and they're like, dude, you finished off a gallon of tea while you've been here. And sometimes I'd get there at 8 o'clock and I'd leave at midnight, or I'd leave at 11 and I'd finish off a gallon of tea. So I'm all about that tea life.
It's your roots, like we were saying before starting filming. It's the roots.
It's the roots.
If
it's the roots of a person.
If you've got it in your blood,
it's going to be even worse. My job is actually trying to do something that I wanted to laugh at. We're introducing a dish called bangers and mash. And it's not even like a true bangers and mash.
It's not. Is it not like sausages?
Nope.
What is it?
It's mashed potatoes and meatballs.
I feel offended. That actually offends me. That is horrific. You can't call it bangers and mash.
Welcome to the United States, where anything has its own name.
No.
Welcome to my life. He was like, it counts, sir. He's like, bangers are basically just beef sausages. I'm like, no, we're using an all-beef meatball. We're using.
Oh no.
Yeah. Welcome to my life. This is what I get to deal with on a daily basis. But we are at the end of the show, so let everyone in the comment, let everyone know where they can find you, what you have coming up, all that good stuff.
So you can find me on my Instagram, which is at Geeky Dreams, and Twitter at Geeky_Dreams. But for content wise, I'm kind of not going to be putting anything out within the next couple of weeks. I'm slowly going back to work, so there won't be too much in the upcoming weeks, but I have got some planned for the new Chobits collection and a few other series as well, but probably a haul video would be the next one as well, because obviously that's tending to be what I'm doing at the moment. But yeah, that's it, unfortunately. That is
okay. We will have all of your content linked down below, so make sure to go follow Geeky on Instagram, specifically so we can get her to 10,000 followers on Instagram, so she can get that swipe up feature. I'm excited for that to happen in the future. I'm definitely the driving force on this. You guys know where to find me because obviously you are watching the Manga Club right now. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all of that basic YouTube stuff that every single creator asks you to do. Do that. And for everyone new, welcome. For everyone old, welcome back. It's your boy Lohali, and I will see you next video.